Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to St. Joseph Regional's third edition of our SOFA Social webinar series. It's great to have you as we see a lot of families still hopping on to our webinar. Tonight, we are going to be talking about curriculum and student services. And we got a great panel for you to help answer all of your questions tonight regarding anything academics and curriculum related at St. Joe's, as well as some of our student services and guidance. Our panelists are happy to answer any questions you have as you continue to gather information during this admission season with, of course, our deadline for admission application on December 10th coming up in just a few weeks as we get ready to hopefully welcome the class of 2026 to St. Joe's. So the way to ask your questions tonight is simply to type your questions in the Q&A portion of the Zoom. So you just send your question in, we will see it, and we will direct it to the appropriate panelists so that they can answer your question right here live on our SOFA Social. So fire away with any questions that you have. I'm going to introduce our panelists. Again, my name is Ryan Aselta. I'm the Director of Admissions and Marketing. Hopefully I've met most, if not all of you at some point over the last few months, whether that be at an open house or our Night for a Day program or an ambassador tour, maybe a game or a show or something like that. And I'm happy to be here helping facilitate our panelists tonight. We have our principal, Michael Bruno, joining us tonight, our Director of Guidance, Arlene DiFiore, and our Vice Principal of Academics, and that's Dave Stoto and Hillary Barnett from our admissions office, as well, our admissions coordinator, to help with any last minute admissions questions. Feel free to fire those away as well. So of course, we're talking curriculum tonight and student services, which guidance falls under tonight. And I guess to get started, I had a couple questions that were sent in prior to the SOFA Social, so we could start with those. One question, Dave, we'll go to you with this, is can you explain the classes or the level of classes that ninth graders can expect to have? How is that divided up, and how are students placed when they first come to St. Joe's as ninth graders?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So we have 4 levels now. We have a college prep level, we have an accelerated level, and that's usually for students who maybe have a slightly higher test scores or slightly higher grades. Then we'll have an honors level for students who have higher grades and higher test scores. And in recent years, the past 2 years, we've now had the Donnelly Scholars Program. So that's for students who have extremely high test scores and excellent grades. Typically it's a small number that get into that. It's a very elite program. So we have the 4 levels, and except for the Donnelly Scholars, it's possible that, like, and I've heard parents ask me this often, my son is really good with English and history. He loves to read, but maybe his math, he needs a little bit of work. So you're not tracked into just one level. So we're going to schedule students so that they could be in honors, English and history possibly, and only accelerated math if that's, their strength or weakness. And we want to challenge each young man as much as possible without overwhelming him. So we work with parents, and we work over the summer. You'll get your schedule in June, and we'll work with you to try and figure out what's the best place for each of the students.
Okay, perfect. Next question is regarding student services and guidance. I'll direct this to Arlene. Arlene, a ninth grader comes in. What are the services that are available to a ninth grader to help them with the transition from middle school to high school? Hold on one second. There we go.
Hi, everyone. The way our office is divided as far as counseling services are concerned is we have 3 counselors. Michael Doherty is specifically for our freshman students. He is our freshman transition counselor. Then we have 2 other counselors, myself and Laura Moore, and we have the students from grades 10 through 12, and we divide alphabetically. So they do get a lot of services, the freshmen, because they do have their own counselor who is specific to their needs. In other words, introducing them to all of the activities, the involvements, the culture of St. Joe's. Mike is a guidance counselor that's been in the school for 30 plus years as a student, as a teacher, as an administrator, and now as a guidance counselor. So they are in very good hands. We also have, accompanying Mike, we also have a counselor who is very much a part of the wellness program at St. Joe's. So we do have a student that is a counselor is particularly trained in terms of the mental health. So those are the services basically, and everything from following up as far as the grades are concerned to their, to their social activities, and to making sure that they're making the most of their time at St. Joe's.
All right. And just a reminder, if you want to type a question in, we will get them to our panelists. Just put them into the Q&A portion of the Zoom. Just type it in and we will get those going to everybody to answer those for you. We have a question coming in regarding the HSPT test, and that was the test that Dave referred to, that hopefully all of your sons have taken by now. It was administered on the 5th. The makeup was on the 13th. If your son happens to be an applicant who hasn't taken the test, please make us aware of that. If you could please email us, and we'll try to accommodate some form of a test, HSPT rescheduling, that we can try to get you into the building before our deadline. But hopefully most students have taken that test. And I want to direct this one to Mr. Bruno. Is this placement done just by looking at the HSPT scores, or is there a placement test as well?
So the HSPT is a pivotal barometer for us to be able to look at. So we will receive all of your son's grades from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which we review. That's also used towards placement. But understand that we receive applicants from a wide array of districts. So in the current freshman class, there's about 130 students coming from upwards of 70 districts. So everyone has different definitions of algebra and of pre-algebra or math 8, things like that. So when students take the HSPT, it's at least a uniform barometer for us to take a look at. So again, that in conjunction with middle school grades is what we use primarily for placement.
Okay, Michelle has a question. What is the typical course and schedule for freshmen, and is it quarters or trimesters? Dave, you want to answer that one?
Absolutely. So it is quarters. We have 4 quarters or 4 marking periods. And a freshman is going to take English 1. Again, there's the 4 different levels of that. The Donnelly scholars would have the high honors level there. World history. A student in the Donnelly Scholars would have AP World History. So that's the advanced placement course. Last year, I believe about 90% of the students taking it got college credit based on their scores. They would take a language course. They would take a math course, which could be algebra, an algebra/geometry course, or geometry, again, depending on their level. There's like biology as their 5th course. Their 6th course would be theology. And their 7th course would be the first half of the year, it's STEAM, which is when they're going to get their Chromebooks, learn all the different apps that come along with the Chromebooks. And then the second half of the year is gym and health. So those would be the 7 courses. So when I said it's in quarters, STEAM is for the first semester, the first 2 quarters, and then it's health and phys ed in the second semester.
Okay, great. We have a question coming in regarding our Bridge Academy, the Knights Bridge Academy. Does St. Joe's offer a prep or a reclass year? We do offer what is called the Knights Bridge Academy. And Mike, maybe you can speak to that on some of the curriculum that goes into that class. The one requirement we do have is that your son has completed 8th grade to enter that program. But it's kind of a program in between 8th and 9th grade, hence the term Bridge. And Mike, you want to explain a little bit about what the boys' curriculum looks like in that program?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Bridge program, as Ryan stated, is exactly that. It's intended to bridge the gap between 8th and 9th grade. So for boys who have successfully completed 8th, but are not quite ready for 9th grade, the Bridge program is kind of a perfect fit. So it was actually a program that was adopted prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was targeted solely towards students who really performed poorly on the HSPT and who didn't have the foundational academic skills for 9th grade. But age-wise, they were moving on from 8th grade and were ready to move on to 9th grade. So we created the Bridge program because we have dealt with countless families who, for a multitude of reasons, whether it be maturity issues or they just feel their son is not quite ready, would come to us and sort of look for an outlet. And now we're able to provide one. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, that sort of brought in a different aspect of the program where we had students who their schooling experience was clearly diminished or in some instances non-existent throughout COVID. And parents were really scrambling and trying to look for, how do I get my son appropriately ready for ninth grade? So the program has really taken two different shapes over the first 2 years. So again, in the first year, it was intended to address those who were academically deficient. And it did that in a pretty impactful way, where we have now those students who are currently enrolled in our freshman class are in honors classes. We had 3 of the original 10 on the honor roll, 1 on our most recent principals list, which kind of spoke to those foundational skills that were built over year 1. Students who are currently in the program in year 2, we have some students who academically were able to sort of transition into ninth grade, but because of their prior schooling experience in COVID, parents sort of expressed that they just felt they needed an extra year. So some of those students are taking, in addition to some of the bridge courses, are also taking some high school courses as well, such as Algebra 1. So we have students who are in the bridge taking Algebra 1 and will be fast-tracked into geometry in their freshman year. Ryan, I think as you said, the program is really intended to do that. So from a content standpoint, they're getting all of the core subjects that you would get in ninth grade, but it's more building on those foundational skills so that students are ready to hit the ground running. So successful completion of the bridge program is an automatic acceptance into ninth grade at St. Joe's. Those students are also able to test for scholarship the following year. But again, in its 2 years, it has seen some tremendous outcomes so far.
And just to clarify, the application process for the Knightsbridge Academy is exactly the same as ninth grade. You would be going through that right now. The same requirements are part of that application. And Hillary, from a technical standpoint within the portal, that's a pretty simple step for applicants, right? To indicate what they're applying for if they're interested in the Bridge Academy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We couldn't have possibly made it simpler. We know how busy everyone is and how many applications they're going to fill out. So you just go to our website, click on apply now, and it's a form you just fill out. Pretty straightforward indeed.
And it's just a checkbox of indicating that you're interested in applying for the Bridge program within the general application. Gary has a question. Do students have the same counselor from 10th through 12th grade? Arlene, you want to tell the folks how the counselor process goes over the 3 remaining years?
Yes, they absolutely do have the same counselor for 10th through 12th grade. So we bring them through the college application process, monitoring their grades, making sure that the levels are appropriate in terms of their growth, because we try to increase rigor each year when possible, and challenge them appropriately. And we get to know the families really well, which is great, because by the end of the 3rd year, we're writing letters of recommendations and such for colleges. So it's important for us to keep that relationship for the 3 years. But with that being said, I've been in districts where the counselor started in 9th grade. And to be honest, in a school like St. Joe's, I really was very hesitant at the beginning, not having the students for 4 years instead of the 3, but it worked out beautifully, because it's much more beneficial to have that transitional counselor in 9th grade. And in fact, the college counselor for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, because kids are from all over, they don't really know each other. Many come without knowing, anyone, or very few kids in the school. So it's just so important. Freshman year is really, how kids do freshman year is going to really determine, how happy they are and how successful they are the next 3 years, I truly believe. So that's why we've decided to go this route, continue this route, and it's worked out beautifully for us.
Okay, great. Our next question is from Catherine. Do you offer any academic programs in the summer? Dave, you want to explain some of the options or some of the programs we do have available?
Sure. So we do have an enrichment program for students who maybe test a little lower on the HSPT. So we offer that as one option. In some cases, it's a mandatory program if students test are very, very low, but some parents also, especially in the past year and a half, have wanted their sons to have this. It's a 3-week program. mornings, and it's really like a pre-algebra to give them that basic stuff. They'll do their summer reading in English. So they work with 2 of our teachers in our enrichment program. Last year, we also started I'm not exact, I think Mike could probably speak to this better, the summer program where they were involved in a lot of different activities in school. I'm not sure, I wasn't involved in that. Mike, could you answer that part of it?
Yeah, so we started what we called the Night Vision program, which sort of gave students a taste of student life here at St. Joe's. So they had an opportunity to meet some of our teachers, be involved in some of the academic life of the school, but they also had exposure to coaches and club moderators. It just gave them kind of a more summer camp feel, but gave them a little bit of exposure to St. Joe's. So we'll be running that as well this summer's coming into 9th grade.
Okay, our next question's from Carol. Are there parent-teacher conferences? If not, how are parents informed about students' progress? Mike, you want to explain our parent-teacher process, parent-teacher conference process?
Absolutely. So the short answer is yes, we do have formal parent-teacher conferences. But honestly, as our goal as administrators is to have far more transparency between what goes on in the classroom and home, because as I'm sure you're all starting to learn, a healthy, mature teenage boy is as close to a mute as you can get. So to be reliant on them for all of the information is not always the best option. So we utilize an online gradebook portal called Genesis. So you will have 24/7 real-time update access to their progress. So as teachers enter grades, it's updated live in the gradebook and you have parent portal access to that. Your son will also have his own access to that. In addition, every teacher has a Google Classroom, so you can sign up for the parent weekly summaries. So you get a summary of what assignments are being put out by the teacher, what's being turned in by your son. And then at the end of the first quarter, we do hold a formal parent-teacher night after report cards go out, but we constantly encourage parents that if you have questions, if you want some information from teachers, to reach out, to schedule appointments, set up a Zoom, set up an in-person conference. It really is a year-round process, but we do facilitate it once a year with our formal conference night.
And I guess just piggybacking off of parent-teacher conference and parent-teacher night, from the guidance side of things, Arlene, I know you guys have certain events or nights that are geared towards either freshmen, sophomores, juniors, or seniors, families. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So every year we have a parent meeting for freshman parents, sophomore parents, juniors, and senior night. And as a matter of fact, we have our sophomore night coming up actually the next week. And where we go over what's important that particular year, planning ahead, making sure that the students are completing their resume, going over the whole Naviance program that we utilize beginning in 9th grade with our students, where they're going to in fact start putting down the activities that they've been involved in, where they're going to start looking at colleges, exploring careers. It's a phenomenal tool. Many of you maybe have had experience with it, and we teach the parents as well as the students, so we work collaboratively. We also have individual family conferences. We are starting after our conference with our juniors next week. We are then going to hold individual family conferences with every sophomore parents and students. So what we decided to do this year with the whole COVID thing, not to have just so many people in the building. We're going to actually have the child in the office with us and have a Zoom conference with the parent. Okay, so you'll pick a time frame and we'll have the meeting then. In junior year, we do a similar thing after our junior meeting, and what we do is we have a family meeting again, individualized, where we will come up with a list of colleges for the student based on the criteria that are given to us, their grades at this point. We have any testing data, so we compose a list of colleges for the student together. And seniors, we do the same thing. We have the senior meeting and we work together with the families and with the students. And in the summer, we have a college program that the kids come to, and they complete or work on their common application. They work on their essay with myself and with the AP English teacher. So really, they come into senior year after that junior summer very, very well prepared in terms of where they're going to apply and getting a leap on their essay and on their common application. So we work very collaboratively. And as far as meetings are concerned, if parents ever want meetings in terms of with a group of teachers or individual teachers, guidance will arrange for something like that. And teachers respond to emails within 24 hours. So really, there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of collaboration between the faculty, the counselors, and the parents.
All right, great. Candace has a question. My son is extremely visual and interested in photography, graphic design, and other visual arts programs. Can you share more information on your art curriculum? Dave, we could probably tag team this from a curriculum standpoint. If you could share some of the options throughout the 4 years that a student may have access to.
Okay, so the STEAM course, which I mentioned before, the A in STEAM is art, and the course is taught by a former art teacher. So she puts a lot of art into the first 2 years. So freshman year and sophomore year, they'll have a half-year STEAM course, which incorporates a lot of different types of art, including some technical, some graphic. And then she also offers electives junior and senior year in more advanced art courses. So a student would be able to do a half-year freshman, half-year sophomore, and then junior, senior year as well. And then for students, as they get to have electives junior and senior year, sometimes we may not have something very specific a student wants. So we have an online program called HSPT, where a student can take an online course and work independently. So we've had students take screenwriting online. He was very interested in that, or filmmaking, things like that. So if a student has a very particular niche interest like that, HSPT will fill that. But we do offer the opportunity to take advanced art as a junior and a senior. Mrs. Grillo, who is the teacher, also has an art club where she works with students in that capacity as well.
Yeah, and that's where I wanted to just piggyback off that, Dave. The club program, there are different options for a student who may be more artistically inclined to get involved. Dave mentioned the art club. I had the media club, where photography is a big part of what we do. You've seen some of our media club members at our events recently, at open houses and different athletic events, where the boys are the ones gathering and getting the photographs, the digital photography, and that's being part of our social media campaign and our website, along with our school newspaper, which uses photography as well. So there are avenues for your son to explore art and some of the visual elements of art when it comes to photography and digital photography. There are some options for him at St.
Even
Joe's.
stage crew, even a lot of students, because the theater program is so big, they're always looking for students on stage crew, and that gives them many avenues.
Yeah, set design. They have the set design as well. So that gets a lot of our artistic students will work with the set design for our theater program, which is it's a wonderful program at St. Joe's, our theater programs, as I'm sure you well know. So that's another avenue.
All right, Dorothy has a question. Can you tell me a little bit about the Learning Center program and how it fits into their schedule? Mike, I think you want to answer this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the Learning Center program, which is intended for students who have an IEP or an ISP. Students who qualify for what we call the day program will have the Learning Center as part of their schedule. So they will defer their foreign language requirement to junior and senior year, and in lieu of that, take what's called the Learning Center, which is really a study skills-based course. So the teacher in the program is an employee of Bergen County Special Services, but he's a full-time teacher here in the school. So he will work with those students in smaller groups. The rest of their courses, though, are all mainstream classes. The goal of the program is not to lower the school standards to those students, but to raise those students to the school standards. And again, looking at outcomes, like those students do not often or ever fail a course for even a single marking period. They're more regularly on the honor roll, on the principal's list. As those students transition through the 4 years, when they enter their junior year, they will then take the Learning Center opposite a phys ed elective. So the idea is to sort of wean them off of those services. We also have students who qualify for what we call the PM, or the afternoon program, who it's not part of their regular schedule. They will take that world language in freshman and sophomore year, but will get their formal services in a period after school with Mr. Fuchs, the teacher for the Learning Center. So again, it's been a great resource for us. There's no stigma attached to students who take part in this program. That's a question that I very often get and talk through with parents. We have about between 50 and 60 students who have an IEP or an ISP, many of whom are coming from a public school setting. And so that document in a public school is known as an IEP. It's transitioned to what's called an ISP when they enter a non-public school such as St. Joe's. The only real difference being in a public school, it's a legally binding document and those modifications must be delivered. In a non-public school, it's no longer legally binding and those modifications become suggestions for teachers. But I can tell you that the faculty here is well-versed in dealing with students with a wide range of learning abilities. So between their skills in conjunction with Mr. Fuchs, those students quite often meet with success.
We also meet the needs of students with 504s. Some of you may have students with 504s through the American Civil Liberties Act. So even if students do not have ISPs, if there are accommodations based on their 504, we also honor those accommodations.
Great. Okay. Next question is from Yuri's asking about the parent portal. I think we mentioned that. That's through Genesis when your student is at St. Joe's, and that's where you have access to tracking your son's progress academically right there on that the parent portal on Genesis. Deborah has a question. What math do all levels of students take as freshmen? Dave, you want to explain the 9th grade math curriculum?
Absolutely. So we have a college prep Algebra 1 course. We have an accelerated Algebra 1 course. And we have a course called the Slash course, which is it's really designed for students who have taken Algebra 1, but maybe haven't completely mastered it. So it's really an Algebra 1 / Algebra 2 honors course. So the way that works is really the first part of the year is reviewing Algebra 1, the main concepts. And then the second part of the year, it's going into Algebra 2. And then that course is followed sophomore year by an Algebra 2 / geometry course. So again, by the end of those first 2 years, those honors students will have had Algebra 1, 2, and geometry, and we'll be moving up to pre-calculus. We also have students who are who may go into geometry as freshmen. We have a geometry honors program. Students in a Donnelly Scholars Program typically would go into geometry honors, but we have also had students go into a geometry accelerated course. So math is the course, as like Bruno said earlier, where students are coming from so many different districts with so many different skill sets. So we really will work with parents over the summer trying to figure out what is really the best possible course for each student.
Okay, our next question, Stacy was asking, when do students have electives like art? I think David mentioned that begins junior year when students have the opportunity to take some of the art electives. Catherine has a quote. What was that?
Let me just piggyback a little bit on that. So freshman, sophomore year, there are no electives. It's all college prep. It's the core courses that colleges want. By junior year, now juniors will have 2 electives. Often they'll take a 3rd year of language. They'll choose the science they want as an elective. We have, advanced placement options in biology and chemistry. We've got forensic science, anatomy, robotics. So there are a number of different options and physics, a number of different options for the juniors. And then there's also one other elective. We do not have phys ed as a mandatory course for juniors and seniors. So a number of our students will opt, since so many of them are athletes, will opt not to take phys ed and choose to take another elective during that. So there are social studies, business electives. There are some advanced placement electives. And then by senior year, they really have 4 or 5 electives, depending on which math they're taking. So they're going to have many, many opportunities as they get through junior and senior year for electives.
All right, we have a question. Are students that come from public school without religion class in grade or middle school, that maybe they just did CCD and weekly mass, are they behind or at a disadvantage? Mike, I think you wanted to answer this one.
I do, because they're certainly not at a disadvantage. In fact, they're the vast majority of our student body. We see about 70% of our classes coming in are not coming from a Catholic school background, they're coming from a public school background. So typically they've been involved in some sort of a CCD program. We also have students of all different faith denominations. In fact, just this afternoon, we had a Thanksgiving prayer service where we acknowledged all the different faith communities that exist within the school. So again, the short answer is no, they're absolutely not at a disadvantage. For some students, the Theology 1 course is really their first introduction to any type of formal religious instruction, and that's okay too. So I've often said to parents, like the students in front of us don't necessarily need to be Catholic. The school, however, is unapologetically Catholic, and students will be exposed to that throughout their 4 years here. But simply from not coming from a Catholic school background puts you at no disadvantage whatsoever.
Okay, great. Gabriella has a question. Is there a youth ministry group which gets involved in helping the community, school masses, etc.? Yes. Well, we do have a campus ministry department for our school, headed right now by Scott Becker. And many of those students take part in community service. And I've tried to explain community service at St. Joe's to many families as it's really the thing to do. There's a fear of missing out, I think, by a lot of students who want to get involved. It is no longer required as part of the curriculum at St. Joe's, but most of our students do take part in some form of community service. Now, youth ministry, they do have opportunities to take part in some of the masses that we have at St. Joe's. There's also the retreats that are available to the boys over their time at St. Joe's. And Mike, maybe you can explain a little bit about freshmen coming in and being introduced to possibly a ministry group and community service. Maybe they came from a public school and have never been a part of that. They right away have that opportunity through our freshman retreat in Esopus. Is that right?
That's correct. And I think you said it quite well. So we've taken kind of a new approach with service, in which we've taken away kind of the word requirement, and instead it's just an indispensable part of who we are here. So I think you said it well, where like kids don't want to miss out. It's part of being what we call the vir fidelis, the faithful man, which is what all of our guys, preach and beat their chests over. But the way they do that is by going out and sort of serving the community. So from the school's perspective, we want to offer as many opportunities for service as possible. Every student in the school is exposed to either a class level retreat at a minimum, or through our partnership with the Maris brothers and their wonderful property up in Esopus, New York, they take part in further retreat opportunities. So again, for students who really want to engage with it, there's a plethora of opportunities for them to do so. At a minimum, students will be heavily involved in service and be exposed to retreat opportunities throughout their 4 years.
A lot of that communication is done through the theology classes as well. And we're very lucky to have Brother John Dunning, who was the freshman counselor up until a couple of years ago. And he is now at Esopus, the retreat center there, working there. And, has a special interest in our boys and getting them there and, providing opportunities for them to serve and to learn and to practice their faith. So it's been a wonderful experience for the boys. And I can tell you many a application supplement or a Common App essay, college essay, has to do with their experience and their growth as a result of the retreats that they experienced during their time at St. Joe's. So it's really a good thing. It's a great thing. As a teacher, in my first year, I had gone to Esopus just to experience it myself, and it's a very special place. And I can understand why the boys want to go there and serve and learn. I know Dave has been involved since he was a young kid, right, Dave? But you were involved with Esopus, going through your own Catholic school education. So very special, very special. It's right near Maris College, actually, right overlooking the Hudson River. So beautiful nature and very spiritual quality. So.
All right, great. We have a lot of questions coming in. It's great to see so many families, some names that we recognize that I know I've spoken with over the last few weeks, and Hillary has had interactions with. So it's great to see all of you on here tonight. Rosemary has a question about science. What applied science courses and programs are currently offered at St. Joe's, and are they offered at each grade level? Dave, do you want to explain our science curriculum?
Absolutely. So all the freshmen will take biology. Again, there's a CP level, an accelerated level, and an honors level. And all of the science courses are lab courses. Sophomore year is chemistry, again, 3 levels. Junior year, now students can take advanced placement biology or advanced placement chemistry, which is where they would have the opportunity for college credit, depending on how well they score on a test. So that's junior, senior year, they could take advanced placement in those levels. Typically, students will take physics as juniors. Again, 3 different levels of physics. Some will take that as a senior, but most take it as juniors. We've offered different electives in science. Seniors have an engineering science elective, an engineering design course. We have a forensic science course, which is an elective. We have an anatomy and physiology course. Those are all honors level courses. And actually the forensic science is an accelerated level course. And we've in the past offered environmental science, depending on the student interest. Every year we'll offer number of courses and depending on how many students sign up. So those courses have run every year, and environmental science has been an on and off course. And then we also have
computer science. You have computer science that may fall in the math department, but it is a computer science.
Exactly. Computer science is also one of the Seton Hall Project Acceleration courses. Last year we started an alliance with Seton Hall University, where 3 of our teachers were certified as professors at Seton Hall. So students who take those courses and score an 80 or above would get college credit through Seton Hall University. And most universities, not all, but most universities would then accept that credit. So last year we started it with computer science, with advanced placement, US government, and with honors economics courses. This year we're looking to expand the program, looking into another history course, getting more of our teachers certified, possibly a theology course as well. So those students get that college credit while they're in high school.
Okay, great. Catherine has a question next. Do you see any attrition in freshman year? If so, how much and what are the typical reasons? Mike, you want to tackle that one?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, so the short answer is yes, but it's minimal at best. So one of the good things about St. Joe's, it's consistency. So I graduated from here in 2005. Our student body was around 500 students. And here, as I said, as the principal in 2021, we're at about 500 students. So that's pretty remarkable consistency, giving sort of the polarizing trends in non-public education. The reasons most typically are unfortunately athletically driven at times, where students come in, I was the best basketball player my town had ever seen. And then you come to a place like St. Joe's and you're surrounded by every town's best basketball player. And so you very quickly realize, oh, I'm not all of a sudden the big fish anymore. So that's most typically the reason. The reasons we very infrequently hear are 1, dissatisfaction, and 2, students who just, they fail out, because as we've often said as administrators, like, you have to work really hard to fail here because you're not really allowed to. There's too many people who are looking over your shoulder and helping you out and, nudging you along the way, that, for you to sort of fall through the cracks to that degree, you work very hard to make that happen. So I think that the attrition piece is one of the unique things about St. Joe's, and that there's consistency and stability in who we are.
Okay, great. Carol had one more question regarding community service. Do students have those opportunities for community service? Is this arranged by the school or the clubs? And the answer is yes, across the board there for that. The students have many opportunities to take part in community service. Some of them are campus-wide, school-wide, organized by the school through our campus ministry department, something like our sleep out that we just had just a couple of weeks ago to benefit Covenant House, which is for homeless teens. We had over 100 boys sleep outside in cardboard boxes and hear presentations from some teenagers just like themselves that same age, but have gone through Covenant House and didn't have a home and had to live on the streets and find that next meal. And they shared their stories, and they broke out into breakout sessions with our boys and some of the faculty members to talk about that. A very impactful community service experience where they also raised money to help Covenant House throughout that. Some of the clubs do take part in community service. Our Our Unico program does some community service events, as well as our student council arranges some community service initiatives. So there are many opportunities to serve, which is one of our pillars at St. Joe's. You hear us say it every time you visited, you've seen it on the walls and the signage. It's think, lead, serve. It's something we take very seriously. So we give our students many opportunities to take part in service.
If I can just say, a week ago, we just had a community service fair, which we set up during lunchtime. So Camp Acorn was there, Montville Environmental Center was there, Unico was there, a senior home from Ridgewood was there looking for students to help decorate for the holidays and do things like that. So we're always trying to give students the opportunity to get out there to serve, and they love our boys. So it's it's a win-win kind of thing.
We also, before COVID hit, we had a senior service day where the entire senior class would come in to school and then go off to different places. So we had students go to the food bank, we had students go to soup kitchens, we had students go to different places and do maintenance, helping out families. And the entire senior class partook in that. And it was a great program, and hopefully we'll be getting back to that as things get back to normal.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in and say that that is absolutely one of my favorite things about the culture at St. Joe's. There's always something going on. Always. We're doing a turkey drive for Thanksgiving. We're making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for homeless people. There's never a time where there's not an opportunity for service.
Okay, we have a couple questions regarding foreign languages. Paul and Yuris have a question. What foreign languages are available? Paul wants to know, is placement into level 2 available to freshmen? Dave?
Okay, so we currently, this year, we have only Spanish. We're actively seeking an Italian teacher to begin an Italian program next year. Our French teacher is retiring, so the French program has been phasing out over the past 2 years. So currently it's Spanish. We're hoping to have an Italian program in place to go along with that next year. We have had some students place into a second level of it. It's sometimes it doesn't work schedule-wise. We don't always recommend it but for a student who's very strong, it absolutely has happened, and we can do that. So we do have placement tests for students who wanted to move up to the second level.
Okay, and Mike, maybe you can help with a little bit of Yuri's question. She was looking to know, can a student choose to switch to another language, whether it be Spanish to possibly Italian? And is there a global program partnership with other states or countries, or even online availability to take a language junior, senior year online?
There's always an opportunity online, and that's through our HSPT program. There's always an opportunity to take a course where we've had students take Italian online. We've had students take Latin online. There are online opportunities for students to take language courses. So that expands our curriculum as well. But as far as right now, with the teacher in front of the classroom, we do have the French level 2 going on, but like we said, we're eliminating that only because of the retirement situation. And I don't think just in our school, I think nationally, because I've spoken to a number of public schools as well. The French program always had a small amount of numbers, but the Italian programs have become very popular, as well as the Mandarin program. So we're looking into different areas in which to expand our world language program.
All right, we have a question from Gabriella. What is the grade range to be considered to the principals list? Mike, we just had our principals breakfast was this morning, honoring those students that earned a spot on the principals list, which was a great event at St. Joe's. How do students get onto that principals list?
Yeah, good question. And the breakfast is always a big hit at the end of each marking period. You'd be amazed by what a little bacon will do to motivate boys to get their good grades up. But so there's actually dual criteria for making the principals list. The first of which is to have a 92 or better in each class throughout a marking period. The second criteria is you can have a weighted GPA of 98 or higher to be considered for the principals list. So students who take accelerated and honors courses are getting additional GPA weight for those courses. So a 90 in that class is actually weighted higher in terms of your GPA. So again, either a 92 in every class or an overall weighted GPA higher than 98.
Okay, great. Katharina has a question. What kind of courses do you have for students interested in business and stocks? Dave, you want to explain that to her?
Absolutely. So as they get to be juniors and seniors, again, we'll offer some electives. So honors economics is typically where we'd start recommending students to take. Again, that's at Seton Hall University Project Acceleration course. So there's an honors level of economics and there's an accelerated level of economics. We also have offered accounting and marketing, which is a senior course, again, at the accelerated and honors level. We have a number of students who have taken advanced placement, micro and macroeconomics as well through EduSeer, which is, the online program. And we're constantly looking to expand our electives. We're hoping to get a sports management course going again because that's very popular with some of our boys. And we have recently started a stock market club with Mr. Odie, our business manager, who does the stock market club after school. The students are involved in competitions. It's extremely popular, and they do very well in the competitions. I believe the seniors are currently leading the region that they're in right now. So there are a number of extracurricular activities as well.
Okay, great. A question regarding our faculty coming in. When it comes to your faculty, is there any trends from where your teachers come from and what type of backgrounds they have? Mike, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the heart of the academic program stems from the teaching faculty. And one of the great things here is that it's made up of a wide array of people who have vast experience in public education, who have made the transition to non-public schools. We have a great number of alums who had such a powerful experience in their 4 years here at St. Joe's that they want to come back and serve. From an administrative standpoint, what we are looking for in our teachers are people who are invested in your son's success. And that I can say we have across the board. It's people who they're not coming in just for class from 8 to 2, but they're involved in the life of the school as well. The 95% of our faculty either moderates a club, coaches in a sport. They're more invested than just the content in which they teach. And again, that is the strength of the program here. We can talk curriculum and program of studies and all of that all night, but it really, it's about people. And I think the people who we have here are the strength of the program.
Okay, great. We have a couple more questions to get to, a few more minutes to go. So if you have any last questions that you want to start typing in, now would be the time to do that. Just to hop on the question again about our business courses, we also have our stock market club, which has been a big hit with the boys. That was started by our now senior and student council president, Connor Mahoney, began that last year, and it's moderated by a head of our business department, Andy Odie. And a lot of the boys have learned about finance and money and Wall Street in that program. And I think a lot of them have either shifted gears or enhanced their longing to pursue finance, possibly in college. So that's another opportunity for your sons, and they can get involved in that right away as a 9th grader when they come into St. Joe's. Question regarding homework. What is the typical or average homework amount, Dave?
That really varies depending on if the student's in CP, honors, advanced placement. I would say about an hour would be a typical, maybe slightly higher for an honors or an AP student. So we started a study hall this year for the freshmen, and it started for the first marking period just for our freshman football team and anyone else who wanted, but it was mandatory for the freshman football team. So they came every day, and I was monitoring it most days. And it was a 45-minute program, and they worked for most of that time. So as a typical freshman, by the end of that period, before football practice started, they were pretty much done with their homework. So I'd say for a freshman, maybe a little bit less than an hour in most cases. Again, if you're in the honors or Donnelly Scholars program, maybe a little bit more. Again, as you get into junior, senior year, it's going to be different. I'll teach an advanced placement course, which doesn't have much homework, but they're just expected to read on their own because it's more like a college course. So it varies, but I would say an hour would be a good estimate of an average homework level.
We have a question about the Donnelly Scholars Program. Maybe Mike, you can tackle this. What does the typical course load look like for someone that's in the Donnelly Scholars Program?
Yeah, as Dave highlighted before, so this is an exclusive program that's really reserved for, in the current year, there are 12 students admitted into that program. So it is the best and brightest in terms of their HSPT scores and their middle school grades coming in. So those students take geometry honors as freshmen because they have already mastered Algebra 1. They take English at the high honors level. They take AP World History. They take biology at the honors level. And so in a lot of those courses, they're cohorted in just that group of 12 Donnelly scholars. As they move throughout the years, they'll have a couple of courses where they remain as a group, but then they're also integrated throughout the rest of the school body as well. So when they enter their junior and senior year, they may have different elective desires, and students who want to go into more the engineering side of things, other students who may want to stay on the more business side of things. But it's, again, we're in the second year of this program now. As Mr. Stoto said before, the students who took the AP World last year as freshmen already earned college credit. And we're seeing sort of the same level of outcomes in this year's group as well. So again, an exclusive program, but a good one.
Yeah, and it's an impressive program. Just to hop on that, in seeing the boys that are in the Donnelly Scholars Program, the sophomores and the freshmen, these students, for the most part, are very, very involved in the community at St. Joe's. They are involved in many of the clubs, activities, athletics, performing arts. They are the ones that are out front and center for our school, and they are impressive young men. So it is a very prestigious program, and one we're lucky to have those boys within that program within St. Joe's right now. A couple more questions. Deborah, do we have a partnership with any college? We do with Seton Hall University. And Dave, can you explain a little bit further how that works and how students are able to obtain college credits, and does that carry over to other schools besides Seton Hall when they're done with St. Joe's?
Okay, yeah, so we started this program last year. And again, currently last year, we started with Honors Economics, Honors Computer Science, and AP US Government. So students in those courses had the option, if they chose to, they had the option to pay $300 to get the credit from Seton Hall. So it's much, much cheaper than getting college credit, you know, if you were to go to Seton Hall. So for $300, you have the opportunity to get that credit. Again, it was only optional. If the student then scored 80 or above in the course, they got that credit from Seton Hall. They have a transcript from Seton Hall, which will look like a regular college transcript with the course listed on it, with the credit listed on it. So then when they go to colleges this year, as they went to as freshmen at different colleges, they would have Seton Hall send their transcript to those colleges. So as I said, last year was the first year we did it at St. Joe's. I had done it at a previous school. It's been around for years and years. And the great majority of schools accept it. I think almost all public school accept it. Ivy Leagues would not accept it in most cases. But the great majority of schools accept that credit because it's coming from a Seton Hall transcript. Again, it's an optional thing. So a student can take Honors Economics, but choose not to take the Seton Hall option, just take the course itself. Student can take AP US Government and say, I'm going to take the AP test and try and get the credit that way, or they can get the college credit through Seton Hall. So they could do it either way. So we started it last year and we're looking to expand and get more courses in every year.
Okay, fantastic. So we're coming up just about an hour, and I think we've made our way through most, if not all, the questions that have come in. Some great questions tonight, and we appreciate all of you firing those questions off. Just a quick reminder, our application deadline is coming up. That's December 10th, so a couple more weeks to get that application form and essay in, as well as make sure you request your transcripts and letters of recommendation from your son's middle school. We will be receiving the HSPT test scores next week, which will then be put into your son's application and his profile, and parents will receive those scores after the new year from the testing service. You receive those. So that deadline is coming up just a couple weeks away. December 10th. Until then, Hillary and I are here to help. So any questions you have, please email us or give us a call, and we are happy to help. Also, our fourth and final edition of our SOFA Social webinar is next Wednesday. That's December 1st. That's going to be our parent to parent webinar, and that's always a fun one. We're going to have a wide array of parent panelists, some current parents of St. Joe's students, some that have moved on and are parents of St. Joe's alums, parents of athletes, performing arts students, student council representatives, a wide array of parents that you can pick their brain and find out about their experience as a parent, how it's been for them being part of the St. Joe's community as a parent. So that's a fun one. That's next Wednesday, December 1st at 7 p.m. And you can register for that on our website as well. So that's going to do it for tonight. I thank Mike, Arlene, Dave, and Hillary, and Steve behind the glass, helping us out, as they say in the broadcast industry, for helping us with our Zoom. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and we wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. We hope to see you next week at our fourth SOFA Social webinar on December 1st. Take care.